Good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is Joe Scarice, your co-host and co-founder of the Creative Birth Strategy podcast here, live and as well as live on Clubhouse. Let's get started here in just the next few minutes. We provide every week a consistent theme of education, networking, and strategy. And we try to come up with a different subject every week. We're pretty much scheduled out for the rest of the year, which is pretty cool. We got some great subject matter that we push out and provide and give back. And we have our website that you can get to us at creativebirdstrategies.com. We're a little over, I think we're close to like 130 episodes, which is pretty cool. Pretty excited about that relationship with Yordell Perkins. One second here. We're going to just mute somebody here. Mute. There you go. So we'll just get started here in just a few minutes and invite some people in, and we're going to go over our discussion, how to prove your value in a crowded real estate market. I think that's a really good timing of things. I think real estate professionals are feeling overwhelmed and trying to figure out their place as a real estate professional, with the different personalities and characteristics of different consumers and investors. It's tough, man, to be out there on a day-to-day basis and stay motivated and stay consistent in what you're doing. So we'll break that down a little bit. I'm just going to invite some people in to our room, on the clubhouse room. Uh, and in the meanwhile, I'd love to thank our sponsors. I'd like to thank Mr. Yurdal Perkins of Perkatech, providing social media strategy, white label marketing, and social media tactics for real estate professionals nationwide. I'd like to thank Lendmark Capital, where I'm a direct private lender nationwide, providing asset-based lending, as well as white label products for brokers and correspondents throughout the country. DSCR, fixed to rent, fixed to flip, new construction, multifamily, single family through four family, and mixed use. I'd like to thank MB Capital Solutions, where I'm a referral partner providing unsecured business lines of credit for real estate professionals throughout the country to leverage gap, down payment, earnest money deposit, cash buys for investors throughout the country. I'd like to thank Realty 411, Ms. Linda Pelagas, who provides national events and national publication for real estate professionals throughout the country. And then I want to thank where I host my events at TCS Property Management, where I hold my real estate license in Pennsylvania, and also Realty Solutions in New Jersey. Um, both very big fans of our local events and regional events that we hold through real estate mastermind strategies. So the week that we've had this past week, the Fed, Trump administration, tariffs, it's really a lot of things going on, but at the end of the day, the rates have come down a little bit. They've leveled off at around 6.58 on the conventional side. It's not going to take a ton of people off the sidelines. I see all inventory very inflated, very stale in most markets. It's a buyer's market in some areas and a seller's market in some others. It all kind of depends on the neighborhood, the location, educational system, the timing of things, price points. But I can tell you right now, from what I'm seeing, it's very stale for the consumer. I do see it as a unique opportunity for the investor. I think I put close to 24 different type of loans in the past week between DSCR, fixed to rent, fixed to flip, some new construction. I have seen some interesting brokering of loans. I'm seeing a lot more broker inquiry this past week. Some good, some bad, but mostly just a consistent theme of brokering loans. So there's a lot more brokers out in the field trying to white label products and get in front of more investors. So, and I'm also attending a ton of events. Like this past week, I was in Pittsburgh, I was in Philly, I was in South Jersey. Very, very quiet, but the people you get to meet, you have to stay very defined and follow up with every single person because it's a lesser group of people. Summertime. And that kind of leads into our discussion today, where first we'll just do a quick update on the market, and then we'll dive into this a little bit. I think it'll be pretty good. Like I said, rates leveled off at around 6.58. All indications on commercial side, we're going to see a half a point drop. I know we have the Jackson Hole discussion coming up with Fed Powell and the federal agency. So we'll see what that shakes out. I think that's on the 23rd. But I think our rates are going to come down commercially. They're already down by a quarter point, but I see another half a point. I'm seeing probably refinance and purchase money in DSCR probably in the sixes, mid to late or high sixes right now, going into the next week. Our bridge money right now is 8.99, so it's very aggressive. I don't know if that's going to go any lower, uh, and that for profitability. So permits were down in June and July a little bit on construction, which was surprising. So I saw that was an interesting little discussion there. Mortgage delinquencies were down on the second quarter, even though I'm seeing delinquencies kind of popping up. And one other article I saw was the mortgage industry itself. 12% of the industry at this point is now non-QM. So non-QM lending, such as Lendmark, has become a very prominent lending piece for a lot of investors as well as consumers understanding it. So another article that caught my eye real quick here: which U.S. housing market is standing the strongest? We'll just go over the top 10 of the best. Milwaukee, Philadelphia, which I'm kind of surprised. It's still hanging tough. Minneapolis, Cincinnati, Detroit, Newark, Pittsburgh, Virginia Beach, areas of outside of New York and Chicago are still staying strong. The coolest fasting markets, Las Vegas, which is no surprise, they're really 11% down in tourism from last year to this year. Sacramento, California, Denver, Colorado, Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, Florida, Miami, Florida, San Diego, California, Seattle, Washington, Washington, D.C., Oakland, California. I don't think there's any surprise on the cooling of those markets. So that's pretty interesting stuff that caught my eye on some articles this past week. And let's just dive into our subject matter: how to prove your value in the crowded real estate market. You know, it's very overwhelming and underwhelming sometimes for a real estate professional. I think the most important piece is establishing credibility with knowledge, knowing your numbers, educating instead of selling. And what I mean by that: hosting webinars, public markets insights, share deal breakdowns, position yourself as a trusted real estate professional, and leverage your experience and transaction. I talk about transactional experience. I think a lot of people want to dive into real estate and don't have the transactional experience, and that takes working with somebody, being mentored by somebody, being coached with somebody, working with somebody that has that type of volume-based transactions. Differentiate yourself with a niche specialization, like a market niche, focusing on specific markets, right? An investor niche, maybe catering to a specific audience, fix and flip investors, buy and hold landlords, short-term rental operators. Financing edge: if you can provide or facilitate lending, it becomes a major differential piece in discussing capital and opportunities with real estate professionals. And then building trust through transparency, showcasing track record, being upfront about risk, and providing resources. I'm constantly putting out articles on market data sheets, lender comparisons, different types of things on property management. Looking at for really highlighting clients' successes. And then networking and visibility. I had a class a couple of weeks ago for the white label. About 30 people were in the class, and I asked everyone, how many, please raise your hand if you're going out to two events a week to network. Nobody raised their hand. You got to get out there. You got to network. You got to be part of mastermind groups and events or hosting or speaking positions as a connector. Like, we're adding two more events in September. We're going to be hosting an event in Lancaster. We're going to be hosting an event in Harrisburg. So we're going to be like in like 10 different markets with real estate mastermind strategies and delivering speed and solutions. Give the good and the bad news the same way, quick, right? Execution. You got to give good service and you have to give good communication. It might not be what people want to hear, but I think people would rather hear the Band-Aid pull off a lot quicker than delay. Brand and personal positioning. the clarity of your message, whether you're an agent or investor or a lender, make sure your brand explains exactly what you do. And they should be consistent. Using that message across flyers, social events, and email signatures, and a value statement. Defining and communicating why working with you is more profitable, easier, or safer than the competitors. In a crowded real estate market, your value isn't proven by saying you're better. It's proven by showing expertise, providing resources, and solving problems quickly and positioning yourself as a trusted partner who makes others more money or saves them time. Amy, good morning and welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning: how to prove your value in a crowded real estate market.
Everyone, I'm Amy Calvado. I wear a couple of hats, but I'm the chairwoman of the U.S. PropTech Council, which is the trade association for the real estate technology industry in the United States. I'm also a tech founder and longtime real estate investor and developer. I've been doing that since 2000. But before that, I had a construction company. So I've done the full gamut, Joe. I've gone from real estate investing, real estate development. Now I'm in tech. But so proving yourself in a crowded real estate market, I would say, but I might be a little biased, is you're going to have to use technology. The ones that adopt technology and adopt AI and really embrace it are the ones that are going to win. So if you're not using AI today, and I don't mean like write your emails. That's not using AI to me. Using AI means that you are automating your processes and allowing yourself to really, really spend time on the strategic things because you're not having to do grunt work anymore. The only way you're going to do that is by automating processes. So if you're not using AI, I don't think you're going to win, and I think that's what the true differentiator is. So yeah, Michael Joe.
I mean, do you think your video work, which I've paid attention to quite a bit, has separated you from anybody else that's trying to do what you do in your space? I mean, like,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's an easy one. Yeah, having a podcast, having so I pivoted into the data center industry, I guess about a year ago. But it took me 6 months to figure out where I want to land. And then when I pivoted into the data center industry, starting my data center news show has definitely made me the expert in the space, even though I'm not the expert. I'm learning every day. But just it gives me credibility. It just gives me this platform that I have that I would not have had I not started the podcast at all. So yeah.
So what I have found, and it's so funny, I was out in Pittsburgh, and I think you would find this quite funny. I met this gentleman that's a loan officer for a brokerage firm, and sends me this long-winded email, and he's like, "Hey, I know we're competition, and da da da." I'm like, "Yeah, like you're not my competition. You were standing in the corner looking on your phone the whole time." I'm saying that to myself. So I said, and my comment was, "Hey, it was nice meeting you." I took the upper hand. I said, "Hey, it was nice meeting you. Hope all is well. I sent you an email on our white label if you ever want to broker loans with us. And by the way, my competition is the mirror." And I put a little smiley face. Like I get a kick out of people thinking everybody thinks they're competition. I don't understand where that comes from. Maybe that's a level of insecurity, but my competition is not my competition is not going out and talking to people when I'm at an event. That's when I fail. The only person that fails is myself. So um I mean, I'm sure you have other prop tech people on your podcast, right? I mean, but
Coming on, I usually highlight lots of different tech founders on my podcast, for sure. And some of them are in the competitive space with me. And some of them are just adjacent. But I have no problem for them coming on. At the end of the day, if what you're building provides the best value, it doesn't matter who's standing next to you because you're providing the best value. So people will inherently see that and they're going to choose your product. So at the end of it's all about, are you meeting the customers where they're at with what they need, and are you doing it in a way that they expect or makes them satisfied, right? If you're That's what value is, and if you're not providing value, then you're not going to ever set yourself apart, right? But in order to provide value, inherently, what's implied in that is what they want. You have to pay attention to what your customers want, and if you stop listening, then you're never going to provide value. If you just assume what the value is, or if you just try to go, well, I know everything. And y'all, I'm talking to myself. I'm speaking from experience. When I first got into tech, thought I knew everything and therefore built a product for myself, and quickly learned when I started talking to people, go, yeah, Amy, it's great, but that's not what I need. Right. So you need to make sure you're always listening, because customers change, preferences change all the freaking time. The goalposts move. It is what it is, but you got to stay listening.
Yeah, I think providing value as a real estate professional goes way beyond just facilitating the transaction. It's about positioning yourself as that trusted advisor, the problem solver, a resource, key weight, so I mean, like market knowledge and insights. I mean, how many subjects, I mean, do you change up the subject or you just do general discussions on the podcast at this point? Are you gearing in?
Just had a conversation with somebody who's like leads strategy for a very, very large real estate team. I won't say who, but what he was noticing is that how realtors now need to become not just the transaction. You're right. It's the homeowner's consultant. Yeah. Around the whole process of owning the home. Like even post transaction, because you want to stay top of mind, right? So if you want to say, "Hey, I need a good landscaper," or you're the person they go to all the time when they're trying to get anything done. Like, "Hey, I need to refinance my home," or "I need to do this." So you curate this relationship, so you hopefully get the back end of the sale, right, when they choose to move or sell or whatever, or referrals or whatever it might be. But the only way you do that is to not be transactional. It is to be, I'm your one-stop shop for anything homeowner related. Right?
Yep.
That's where you need to get to. How do you get there? Through technology. I mean, you're going to have to, there's a thing called, what is it, homeowner AI now? And I think one of the real estate teams is trying to pick that up because of that very reason. It's your realtors aren't your transactional people. They're really there to be your consultant on the whole home owning experience. And oh, by the way, yeah, they're going to help you buy a house or sell a house, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Amy. This morning, I look forward to having your hour of powerful AI discussion following this room.
Yeah.
Love it. Sure. I love it.
Yeah.
There you go. So tying into providing value, it's definitely about market knowledge and insight, being part of the local market trends and getting people to know about that, right? Staying hyper focused in local insights. Obviously, having a better understanding and educating your clients on financing options, whether it's the investor or the consumer. I think more realtors need to be, if they're going to be investor friendly, and I hate to use that word, but at least investor driven, why haven't you sat down with a non-QM lender or several to get their take? And then understanding how to put a deal and analysis together and strategize. You're gonna advertise a fixer upper, but you don't advertise the potential exit strategy or the entrance strategy to the property. Being a problem solver and resourcing connections. I'm constantly making introductions for people. Nonstop, I'm introducing people. Oh, I need a 1031 exchange person. I need a cost seg person. I need this person. It's an easy email introduction. Boom, done. Text introduction. Boom, done. Being a connector. But also, listen, hey, listen, I made that connection. You got anybody for me? Can you introduce me to 3 people? There's nothing bad about asking that, right? You got to just be quick-witted, and then your negotiation and transaction expertise has to be there too as well. Providing value for someone, right? Education and communication. I've decided that I'm going to put together a more extensive class for the white label. I feel like I cover enough in 2 to 3 hours, but if I do an all day event and slow it down and break it all out, meaning single family through four family and 5 through 20 and the mixed use 2 through 8, and then break out fix to rent and fix to flip and general construction and multifamily value add. I feel like it's almost going to be a whole day of modules, and I'm going to be putting something like that together probably for the late fall, early winter, because I think it's a necessary subject, and I got to just build it out. I mean, it's already there. I just got to kind of schedule it and get it out there in front of people. But I feel like the white label's good for 2 hours, but I think there's more needed and more people walk away with more information. They need more questions to be answered. So I think we're going to do more of an all day discussion. So I'm going to be putting that out there. I'll probably have it in Philadelphia initially and then kind of go from there because I think more real estate agents and professionals want to understand. It's really funny. I was at an event Friday night with my wife. We went to a happy hour real estate event, and I met a couple of real estate agents, and they get it. They're bilingual. They have a lot of general contractor colleagues that are fixing and rent and flipping properties and renovating and holding, and they want to be part of that process so they don't lose the client and build loyalty with them. That's building a brand. That's separating themselves away from a lot of other people. And there's another part that I think people need to kind of figure out as real estate professionals how to stay underwhelmed as a real estate professional today. You know, most professionals in real estate are told to hustle harder, grind longer, and overwhelm your clients with activity. But in today's market, full of noise and social media flexing and constant distraction, the real win might be learning how to just stay underwhelmed. I try to keep myself to one event in the evening and really focus through my clients throughout the day. If I'm doing a morning, mid morning, or mid afternoon event, I might not do an evening event. I want to make sure I have time for my client inbound inquiries. I always get catch 22 when I do that. Also, maybe thinking about not chasing every trend. I think AI tools are very important, which could alleviate a lot of the other marketing that you once did. Um, you know, I think like to me, I'm going to be doing a text messaging campaign to do more appointment setting because people will open up the text and they'll either tell me to go scratch or they're going to set up an appointment. Right? It gets to the point real quick. I think we're all being distracted, and I think if you have to stay consistent, like I have my Google team posting 3 to 4 posts a day, so I'm allowed to just do what I'm supposed to be doing. I do the podcast once a week, and then it gets pushed out and gets clipped and placed in different locations, right? So there's definitely a system to what I do on a week to week basis because I'm also submitting files for clients at the same time and having 15, 20, 30 conversations a day. And you got to filter the information overload. You gotta when you're putting out different types of flyers and information, you know, you got to kind of get personal with people. That's if you're seeing. I don't know if anybody's paying attention to some of the flyers that I'm putting out. I'm putting more personalized discussions. Under promise and over deliver, and say no more often. There's nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, listen, this is not going to work." It might hurt initially, but I'm telling you, you're gonna, just pulling the band-aid off, whether it's telling people, hey, listen, maybe we shouldn't work together. Maybe this is not a deal that we should work together. I tell many brokers that we shouldn't work together. One, because they're sloppy, and two, that's a reflection on us completing a loan for their client, and they're not doing justice by their clients. So sometimes I tell them, maybe you should go somewhere else and work with somebody else instead of me. I take the higher hand. Maybe it's me. You know what I mean? I say, hey, maybe it's not going to work out. Let's break up. Focus on real value, not the flash. Instead of trying to wow with gimmicks, impress with competence, communication, and clarity. Make your clients feel secure, not dazzled. Detach from the drama. If somebody wants to take you into the drama, why they're not doing this, or listen, hey, that's fine, no problem. I don't need more of the details. We'll just cancel the file. Okay. You don't want to hear the story? I'm like, no, I'll just cancel the file for the time being. Right? Focus on deals, clients, and lenders with leaders when making your business going forward. Don't work on the drama approach. Nobody cares about the story. People care about bullet points and closings in our space. Felix, good morning and welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to how to prove your value in the crowded real estate market.
Felix Buchanan Sr., Grand Rising, everybody. Thanks, Joe, as always. The JLix Group, JLix Management, LLC, Buchanan Biz Enterprises, and I'm also a team leader of a Keller Williams Legacy team. You guys hit a lot of good ones in the sense of, how you stay proven. Education is big. Consistency, you got to be consistent in everything that you're doing so that people realize and know that you are, taking care of your business, handling things correctly. Follow up is very, very essential. I used to not do as well with follow up. That is key to proving your value because people know that, with starting to do business with you, you're going to follow up, you're going to stay keeping them in order, keeping them in line, and keeping them on task. Efficiency just in response time with information. Like not just the follow up of whatever information it is that you're providing, whatever your niche is, whatever it is that you're involved in. You want to make sure that you are giving and have top flight information. You know exactly what's going on in the market in real time, what's happening right now, which partially goes within education. Knowing your numbers, you mentioned that, knowing your stuff, knowing the markets, knowing your stats, what's required, what are the codes. I rehab properties, so you need to be up to date with what the codes are, what's the requirement to making sure that you get from beginning to end. What is your contingency plan for when things aren't going exactly the way that you need? Here's how you are able to quickly pivot. Resources, partnerships, those are key components to, like you mentioned, these are the people that you do business with. You know that if you refer someone to do podcasts, or if you refer someone to another thing that you don't do, you know that person in which that you're referring to is going to provide the same level of service in which you provide, so that they're not missing a beat. You know that your clients are always taken care of. And that's it. That's my knowledge and information for the day.
And I'll see you at potluck on the 22nd, right?
Say that again.
I'll see you at potluck on the 22nd, correct?
Yes, you will.
All right, good stuff. I'll bring something good. Don't worry about that.
Okay, appreciate it.
No problem. So, Felix brought up a good part here: how to stay proven as a real estate professional. Again, I'm going to go back to Friday night at the happy hour that I brought my wife to. It was real estate networking. I went working, talking to a couple people that I knew or kind of knew, and I turned to my head and I see my wife talking to a young lady at the table, and I'm like, oh, great, she's networking a little bit herself. And I come over there, and her husband's there, and we're talking, and then all of a sudden we're all talking, and the guy goes, we're connected on Facebook. I said, oh, really? He goes, it's really nice to meet you in person. I always see your articles and your information and your events. I'm like, oh, thank you. I hope have you thought about attending any of the events? He goes, yeah, I'm going to come to one of them here or there. And then he showed me his business card. I'm like, oh, I know who you are. And then we started talking a little more detail. But you know what? I still made sure I sent him an email the next morning. Hey, it was nice meeting you. If there's anything I can help you or your wife in your real estate businesses, please let me know. What's the worst thing that happens? He responds. What's the worst thing that happens? He doesn't respond, right? Every person I meet in person at an event gets an email if I have their contact information. It's a quick follow-up. I connect with them on LinkedIn and thank them for their time in a few minutes. And if there was something that was relevant to the discussion, I'll put that in that thank you. Hey, it was great talking about this or great talking about that. Now, they might not respond, but you did the value add to stay proven as a real estate professional. Consistency in performance, delivering results repetitively, right? Reliability and track record. That shows that you're being reliable. You're following up with them. You're taking a responsible part in acknowledging that you've met them and thanking them for the few minutes. And then tying into what Felix was talking about, ongoing education and market mastery. Now, mind you, every single person I get their information goes into my CRM where Yardell and I are sending out an email blast for updated events and educational pieces. So I'm staying focused on and tracking economic indicators with these individuals and keeping them abreast of what's going on and who I am and what I do as a real estate professional, right? So you got to think about that. Being authentic with integrity. It's a responsibility, right? In being transparent and being integrous and thought leadership and visibility, right? Sharing on social media of great discussions, jumping on a podcast with somebody, clipping that and getting it out there, getting your insights out. Maybe doing a newsletter, maybe hosting or hostessing a mastermind. Right? I'm more than happy to co-host a mastermind just about anywhere throughout the country. If we schedule it, we'll definitely put it together, right? We'll just put a subject out there and attract a couple dozen people. Those are the people you want to meet, right? You want to provide market updates and deal breakdowns and investor education, right? Client-centric relationships, following up after closing, just doing a check-in. Like today, I do a bunch of check-ins with people, so hopefully I hear back from them Monday. I do a bunch of email discussions just to see how they're doing. Hey, everything going okay? How's everything going with the property? Helping clients feel like you're building their wealth, not just closing deals. And adaptability and innovation. I think a lot of people just stay out there to stay relevant, but you got to understand the adaptability. You got to understand market shifts, right? You got to understand where policies are going to impact your bottom numbers, inventory, interest rates. Did everybody know that the rates closed at 6.58 today on Friday? I did. I wanted to make sure I did. You got to stay aware of what's going on, and you got to welcome also technology, like what Amy and I were talking about. CRMs, digital marketing, AI underwriting. Anticipate and adapt to new strategies. Stay proven means evolving faster than the competition. In short, staying proven is a cycle. Deliver results, share proof, stay educated, stay visible, and keep relationships first. Bob, good morning and welcome. Thank you for your patience. Brief overview who you are, what you do. Thoughts to how do you prove your value in a crowded real estate market?
Hey, good morning, Bob Chestik, President of Chespin Corporation, helping people set up corporations and LLCs. I'm not here to give any legal advice today. I'm not an attorney. First of all, before I even jump into this, I just want to say one thing that I heard Amy say that she resonated on, I put in the chat, where she said you become the homeowner's consultant as a real estate agent. She absolutely nailed the concept right there with those words. One thing I've learned doing the setups, particularly Joe, and you've seen this in real time when I've spoken at your events, which I'll be doing this week. We'll talk about that in a minute. You see people come at me as basically the guy who just answers all the questions about, how to set up the LLC, what's wrong with the LLC, even if it's stuff that's outside my wheelhouse. When you become an expert, a subject matter expert on something, you will attract people to you, and that only gives you an opportunity not just to build out your network for referrals in the same area, but also to possibly expand the level of services that you provide. So tying that into how do you prove your worth in such a crowded market like real estate? The answer is you have to stand out as the go-to person for whatever they need. And I've talked about it in the past. I've seen realtors that have encyclopedia knowledge of the markets they're trying to cover and can take that into other markets that they know people are moving to their market from. I've seen people get very creative. For example, one I know who he filmed when he showcases properties, he bought a bunch of drones and sends the drones up to film the properties from all different angles and get some unbelievable footage, but also knows that if it's something outside his wheelhouse, like you said, so who's a good plumber, um, makes it a point to know the best people in the market for when that homeowner walks in and they're like, oh God, now I don't know what to do with this property. You want to make sure that you have that network in place. So phenomenal advice there. But the basic thing is you want to know everything you could possibly know about the market or markets you're covering. Because the more you know, the more people come back to you, the more people are going to be attracted to you, referred to you, and that's how you build a network. Yes, you might. We talked last week about the business brand versus the personal brand, but be the expert in the area you want to cover so that it attracts everyone to you. And before you know it, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And using that kind of method is exactly how I've survived 23 years in a very crowded market in my industry, which has now just become a completely consolidated market into only a handful of companies. So you want to be expert, and that's how you survive. Joe, back to you.
Bob, thank you. Yeah, when I go to a lot of events and there might be somebody that's at my level of the non-QM space, maybe they're a direct lender instead of being a broker. I think we have more of just a mutual conversation of where the market's at. We're not most of the time we're not advers. I don't remember the last time that there was an adversarial conversation. Um, we just kind of say, "Hey, how's everything going with you? I mean, the basic talk is how's the SCR going for you guys? How's fixed rent going for you guys? How's your my delinquencies? I got a couple deals that are going a little sideways. We just talk balance sheet talk. It's not like my company's better than yours. I think in my space, everybody's having a struggle in growing because it's a growing business, right? Non-QM is now what double digit in presence in the industry. So I think it's not going away. It's only going to increase. So why be adversarial? Because you never know when you're going to end up working with one another, right? The business itself is not that big. Same with what Bob's saying in the LLC space. It's not that big of a space. And especially if you're a real estate agent in a very specific market, it's not that big of a market. If you end up being a buffoon, you're going to see that reflection in your business on your bottom line, right? So standing out as a real estate professional means making yourself the go-to authority in a sea of real estate professionals. It's not just being good at deals. It's about differentiating yourself from people, being credibility and providing visibility, defining your own niche specifically to what you're doing, building expertise so deep that people associate your name with the niche, right? Creating educational content tailored to your niche, building an authority brand, content leadership, speaking engagements, social proof. Sometimes you got to create your own speaking engagements. Maybe I've never seen. It's so funny. High school never goes away. Everybody I think still battles in high school till the day they die, right? With the events and meetups. Oh, I'd like to be able to present. Well, we'll put you on the list. We'll get back to you. You know what? I'm done with going on lists. I create my own lists. I create my own events. I'm not going to wait for somebody to recognize who I am and what I do and what I bring to the table. I just make shit happen, right? Deliver an unforgettable client experience. Over communicate. Take the time talking with people. Personal touches. Anticipate needs before clients ask. Being the connector. Going back to that. Being the connector. Network is your network is your net worth. Wholesalers always reach out to me. Hey, do you got anybody that wants to buy one of my properties? Sure, come to one of my events. Well, I can't get there. Well, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't even know who you are, but you want me to help you sell one of your properties? It kind of makes me wonder, like, you can't take 45 minutes to come out to an event, but you want me to help you sell a property that I don't know anything about you or the property? Leverage storytelling. Tell your story. Put it in a video. Put a podcast together. Be interviewed. Be interesting. Using short reels, educational clips, deal highlights, that separates yourself. Expertise, visibility, and relationships intersect. Be the professional who educates, connects, and delivers results. And you'll never be interchangeable. Stephen, good morning. Welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to how to prove your value in a crowded real estate market.
Yeah, this is Steve Franco, REI homepage. I'm a broker, investor, and doing a bunch of other things. But mostly what people come to me for is sort of questions of, hey, what do I do in this situation? So a lot of the connector stuff. And from that comes the, can you help me buy real estate? Can you help me do this? So on and so forth. And I think that being that is key to proving the value, but I think also, and this is where I'm trying to add technology because it's one area I struggle with, is making sure you get back to every response every time, regardless. And also the other thing that I'm ramping up in the fall is visibility, posting online, podcasts, being visible and out there. Because the reality is most of us are in a commodity version of the market. You know, if someone's looking for a realtor, there's a trillion of them. If someone's looking for a wholesaler, there's a trillion of them. If someone's looking for lending as a general term, a lot of options there. You know, so how do you sort of step outside that and letting people know what do you do that somebody else doesn't do? Like, okay, if you're looking for a certain type of the categories Joe works in, you're looking for that type of lending, he's the guy. You're looking for how to finance a self-storage facility, maybe there's a different guy for it. So letting people know this is where I can be useful. And the last thing that in the providing value, and this is one that I do struggle with, is when they're not a fit, when they're looking for something that I just don't care to provide, I could provide it, but it just isn't whatever, gently guiding them to a replacement rather than just saying, no, thanks, I can't help you. You know, you want to buy a, specific type of property. You're a residential buyer, for example. I'll guide you to one of my agents. I'll guide you to another agent in the market, but I'm not the guy to bring that newlywed couple to their dream home. So you kindly redirect them without making them feel bad, without making them feel I don't want you. It's just this isn't a fit, and letting them know that quickly. And that seems to be working pretty well. People coming back with, hey, with more requests, more opportunities, more things we can do together. And it especially works for me in the self-storage community, which is its own little specialized niche that I know what I'm looking for. I'm looking to buy there. So now I need to reverse the conversation. Who are the people I can find those from? So that's kind of what I'm thinking. It's about showing specialization and being clear and directing them. If you're not the guy, directing them to the person who is.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get lost with that or get concerned that they're going to lose control of the client if they make other introductions. Steve, I would agree with you, and that comes with being overwhelmed in the business, right? You know, just slowing it down and taking the time. It's funny when I'm traveling between appointments and maybe it's a long drive, an hour here or there, and a client calls me and says, "Hey, you got a few minutes?" I said, "I got an hour on my hands. I'm driving just forward to the next appointment." They're like, "Oh, okay. Can I take a few minutes?" Sure. And we go all the way through it, right? Because what else I have to do? I mean, I'm just fielding questions and concerns. It makes them feel a whole lot better. Now, do I get every deal? No, I'm not. I'm not really. I'm not focused on it. I'm not going to get every deal because there's just so many people looking for whatever they're looking for or whatever answers they're looking for. You're in a very specific market in the Northeast Pennsylvania market. Your brand is everything. You ran events, you have, you're a real estate broker, you're a real estate investor. So you got a lot going on in a day-to-day basis. What do you advise to somebody just starting off? Like, what are the first baby steps?
Well, and the one thing that's the reason I So what are those 2 or 3 things that I want people to care about? I do a lot of things, but what are those 2 or 3 things? And I think that's the first baby step that I tell people. In fact, one of the things I'm in now with the wholesale business is the growth mode, expanding agents and agents hitting or whatever their team members, and them hitting what I had structured as they would get there. Now they're saying, okay, well, I'm here. What's next? And sort of how to do that HR stuff is new to me. But what I suggest people when they're starting out is that you can't be everything to everyone. You can know everyone and connect them, but I'm a wholesaler. Or more specifically than that, I'm a wholesaler that provides you this kind of property in these markets. One of my team members wants to, well, I'll wholesale anything anywhere in the country. I said, no, not with me, you won't. You'll wholesale markets where you get enough local knowledge to which side of the tracks is right, you need to specialize to a level that you're comfortable in. And the other thing is, and this is, again, I'm focusing on wholesale, but it kind of applies to everything, is the ads of I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in LA for $4.2 million. Who wants it is not enough information to let someone know if they want it. If you don't know the questions that your clients are going to ask, if you don't understand your client's business, like Joe, you understand when someone's looking at a deal, you know the rest of what they're trying to do, the rest of mostly how that business works. A wholesaler who just says, I have a house, and I really don't know what the guy wants to do with it or what the repair estimate's going to be or what, then you know you're bringing something that is going to be valuable. You know, you're not just wasting your time signing a contract because the seller said a certain number. You need to know your client's business not as well as them, enough to be helpful to them. Otherwise, they can just go to Google and find a replacement. And that's specialization. That's starting off from step one and pretending you are your customer is probably where I tell everyone to start.
You bring up a good subject of thought here. Specializing as a real estate professional, being that go-to expert, right? That specific niche. It could be a market. It could be a service within the industry. Like I focus on asset-based lending nationwide, debt service, fixed to rent, fixed to flip, new construction, single family to 4-family, 5 to 20 on the multifamily side, mixed use 2 through 8, as long as it has a residential blend, fixed to rent, fixed to flip, or new construction. I don't really have a number how many units I can go. But I burrow that hole. I also tie it into unsecured business lines of credit because I know so many people that have great credit but always need money to get into the next deal. They're scaling, they're trying to grow, and they only have so much money to go get into deals. And what I really find ironic. Go ahead, Steve.
No, silent. I thought you were stopping for me to say something. I was guessing what it was. Getting those people who are scaling and helping them move to the next level is where you can step in again and say, well, here's what you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then for the real estate agent that's listening in, how do you not offer unsecured business lines of credit to your clients? If they're an investor or they're in business, they must have an LLC. Why aren't they opening up an unsecured business line instead of jacking up their personal credit? Like you are their go-to advisor for real estate transactions. Like you need to have that as part of your repertoire. You need to stand out. A real estate agent now is so more dependent is being more so dependent by a client, whether it's investor or consumer. You need to have options. You need to have aces in your sleeve for the what ifs. I mean, the subject discussion is how to prove your value in a crowded real estate market. Being that connection, being the difference maker to get to the closing table. Specializing in a client profile, maybe, specializing in financing as part of your space, right? Nobody is that busy in this room not to be able to specialize and offer other than what they're doing. Like I offer unsecured business lines. I offer lending. I have connections and run mastermind events, provide education on a week-to-week basis. Like Bob and I are going to have a sit-down mastermind on Tuesday in North Jersey. Dive into LLCs, provide insight, hopefully create new relationships, establish bigger relationship to people we already have. Amy, some follow-up?
Yeah, I was just going to say one other way you can prove your value. We're talking about proving your value, right? So we've gone past like, okay, knowing what your value is, right? Trying to discern what that might be. But then if you want to prove your value, obviously podcasting is great, but I would also say what you do, Joe, on the CE side, teaching. If you can teach somebody something, whatever it is, you know something more, whatever your market, whatever it might be, whoever you're catering to, if you can teach them something, then you prove your value, right? And so, the CE courses are great, like creating a class on whatever it might be, that will prove your value. It creates this kind of expertise, or you're deemed as an expert in a space, and you probably don't even realize that you are an expert at something. You probably are. I mean, if you've been around long enough, it only takes you about 10 years to become an expert. So if you've been working on something for 10 years that applies to the real estate space, you're an expert in it. So teach somebody that if it makes sense. But I would say the teaching aspect of it does do that. And having a podcast, it kind of gives you that angle where you're representing, people are learning, hopefully whatever you're podcasting about is substantive, and people are learning from you. I would just say, if you're trying to prove your value, start teaching people stuff.
Yeah, I think the CE has really allowed me, one, to listen, two, there's a passion now, when I teach the courses. And I focus just on one course now because it's a lot of the other courses don't have any relevance to what I do. So it's like I should just kind of burrow that hole. I mean, listen, I use AI. I don't think I am smart enough to teach a class on it. You know what I mean? I know I don't do FHA lending anymore. I haven't done a residential loan in over 10 years. So should I focus on what I do every day, or talk about something I kind of know about still? Don't know all the regulations anymore. I mean, I kind of know it, but like I don't know it because I don't do it every day. But I know what I do every day. I might as well teach what I teach. I could teach relevant transactions to those discussions to prove my value, and hopefully shed some value to the individuals that are staying engaged for 2 hours or 3 hours with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a book suggested for anybody who's trying to kind of get started. It's Michael, I think it's Stelzner. I was going to look it up. It's called Launch, Launch. And I read that book cover to cover. I thought it was absolutely stellar. And he talks about how he created his platform, Social Media Explorer, and what he ended up doing, and how he turned it from initially nothing, like it was just a website, into how he monetized it. And it's a great book. And basically the theme of the book all the way throughout it is provide value first. Just provide value after value after value, and then people will resonate with it. And so when you want to offer up a webinar, then no big deal. People will be willing to pay for it, because you've provided so much value up until that point that whatever they're gonna just assume whatever that you're asking them to pay for is gonna be valuable. It's really kind of interesting. It's a great book.
Yeah, definitely put that in the chat. And I think where Amy's going with this, I think packaging and positioning and promoting yourself what makes you indispensable, right? Think of it as like a brand launch, right? You're taking your expertise, your relationships, your services, and putting them into a marketplace with clarity and impact, right? Defining your value proposition, packaging the expertise, positioning yourself as an authority, launching your value with visibility, and delivering and reinforcing value. And then allow that to scale, right? So, in short, launching your value, defining it, packaging it, positioning it, promoting it, delivering it, and then scaling it. but it also ties back to follow up and follow through. If somebody says to you, "Hey, I'm going to reach out to you this week," reach out to them. If somebody emails you, "Hey, thanking for your time," there's nothing wrong with replying saying, "Hey, it was great meeting you too." How painful was that? And then just delete it. But respond, follow up, and follow through. I mean, listen, Clubhouse is a great tool to market oneself, and I've leveraged it to my podcast. But to be honest, most people don't follow up on this. You're terrible, right? You're terrible people to follow up with. Amy called me and said, "Hey Joe, I'd like to do a podcast through Clubhouse in your group." Done. It wasn't painful at all. Felix I wanted to make sure he met a couple people down in the Baltimore market to expand his business. Done. Steve, I've done events with Steve in the past and the present. I've done loans with him. Bob, I've known 15 years. If I call one of them, they're going to call me back. Be a better professional to show your value in the follow up and the follow through skills. And all this is going to be great talk, but it's going to be factual, very visible. It's very overwhelming right now what we're all dealing with. I get it. I'm with you. But you got to be consistent in what you're doing. Bob, some final thoughts to our discussion this morning: how to prove your value in a crowded real estate market. Bob?
Hey, sorry, I hear. Well, first of all, as everyone just said, and Joe, again, you nailed it on the head. Follow through is extremely important because, excuse me, follow through is extremely important because even the simple acknowledging a message came in. Most people don't do that. They just leave you hanging. I cannot tell you how many times on a daily basis where I've got people that are on critical deadlines and they just go, they don't respond. And then once the manure truck arrives at the fan factory and the delivery guy comes out and says, "Sign for delivery, please," that's the moment they're suddenly starting to call me back. But then they're starting to think, well, wait a minute, why do I owe these penalties because I'm late filing my annual report? Why didn't you do it for me? I've actually had people that assumed I would front the money to file the reports. That's not how these things work. But the point being that the lack of follow through causes problems. And Joe, I'm going to reiterate what you just said. The people sometimes on Clubhouse, there's no follow through. They'll leave me a message on here, but I have my phone number, I have my email. They're like, "I'm going to get in touch with you." They never do. Get in touch with people and get the ball rolling. Don't be a professional listener. Take action and be a professional. That's my final thoughts. Nothing was intended as legal advice. Back to you.
Thank you, Bob. Follow through and follow up are the secret sauce of being a proven, trusted real estate professional. Deals may bring your clients once, but your consistency in communication and service is what keeps them for life. Reliability, communication discipline. Just saying a follow-up hello brings a value. Just checking in with people. People like to be checked in with. Believe me, I like when people throw me a text. "Hey, how's everything going, Joe? Everything going well?" I love that. "Hey, it's going great, man. Everything going good with you? You want a great coffee?" It could spark something. I have 3 coffee appointments this week with people that we just did a quick follow-up on one another. I mean, will there be business from it? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's just to, hey, check in and see how we're doing from a mindset perspective, just to keeping our brain sane. There's nothing wrong with that either. I want to thank our sponsors today. I want to thank our moderators. I think they gave really some great value to this today. Stephen, Bob, Felix, Amy, how to prove your value in the crowded real estate market. It is crowded and it's going to stay crowded, and you're going to have to stand out. You got to be that unicorn, right? So I want to thank Lendmark Capital, where I'm a senior loan analyst providing nationwide asset-based lending and white label marketing. If you'd like to broker loans with us, love to train you, get you set up, have a class with you, get you you and your team up and running, making money, an extra revenue stream potentially. I want to thank MB Capital Solutions, providing unsecured business lines of credit throughout the country. I'd like to thank Mr. Ural Perkins of Perkatech, who is the backbone to this podcast, a friend, associate, business partner in our podcast and our social media white label marketing program for real estate brokers throughout the country. I want to thank Realty 411, Ms. Linda Pelagas, providing a national publication, national events for real estate professionals, real estate mastermind strategies, where we have events now in 4 states and we're expanding. If you'd like to have a meetup or a mastermind in one of your locations, let's schedule it. Let's get it going. We'll travel. We'll promote it. And if you need a podcast interview and to get some information about you out and talking about your niches and who you are and what you do, let's schedule that and help you promote. We're getting somewhere between 3,500 and 5,000 views a week on this podcast, believe it or not, on the post production. So I'm really happy about where the whole relationship is going within Clubhouse and within the podcast, the Creeper Strategist podcast. And my quote this morning: 3 simple rules. If you never go after what you want, you'll never have it. If you do not ask, the answer will always be no. And if you do not step forward, you will always be in the same place. Have a blessed Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, great week. Let's get back to it. Every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, providing education, networking, and strategy here on Clubhouse and here on the Credit Bureau Strategist podcast. And follow up with everybody, with Amy in the next room on AI, Rewired. And I'll be ending the room in the next 30 seconds. And thank you.